introduce a friend of BHS and a friend of mine, Nigel Clayton.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, hello.
Hello.
So the name of my topic is jumping off a cliff without making a splat. So I was thinking about how can I make this really work fast for you? And so I decided what we're going to do is I've hired a bus. It's going to be pulling out here any moment. We're going to get on the bus. It's going to take us to the airport, and we're going to fly down to the Grand Canyon, and we're going to put on these bat suits, you know, that people are using to fly, and we're going to jump off the Grand Canyon and fly down to the bottom. Okay, so let's go. Now I know there's some of you that would, but for the rest of us, we not only have to have a bat suit, we need a parachute, and we need a signed letter from God saying we're not going to get hurt or killed to do that. And isn't that just like how a lot of us feel when it comes to trying to go after big goals? Because we're pushed out of our comfort zones, we're doing something we probably haven't done before, and it's scary. And we may splat. So we're all encouraged to set goals every year. And during the first part of the year, people are setting goals all the time, right? And we're talking about SMART goals. Everybody heard about SMART goals? If you're going after big goals, SMART goals are stupid. Okay? Because all they do is keep you where you are. Maybe a little bit of a cost of living increase, but they're not pushing you out of your comfort zone, because what's the one word in there? Attainable. Well, when people think of attainable, do they think of big goals? No. So, what you have to ask yourself is, do you have the time to go after these smaller goals and get to the big goal that you really want to get to? Because it's going to take a lot longer. And another question you have to ask yourself is, we've just gone through an economic downturn. But even though we've had an economic downturn, business is moving faster than it ever has before in our lifetimes. It's moving so fast, most of us can't even keep up with it. So do you even have the time in the present to just go after the little short goals? So I think now more than ever, big goals are more important to go after. And I've been working with entrepreneurs for over 25 years. And when I talk about big goals and let's put together some really big goals, most of the time what happens is people get all excited and they sound like Tony Robbins and they're going to rule the world and they've got all this excitement. And then we start putting the plan together and we make sure they have action steps and we make sure that the plan and the action steps are going to add up to what the goal is. And they may start to implement it. And they may go for some time. But eventually most of them start to slow down. And they start to really slow down. And they're almost immovable. And I say, what is stopping you from going forward after this big goal? And over the last 25 years, 3 things come up. The answers are either, I don't know how to, I don't believe I can, or I don't want to. Okay, this is where you jot this down on paper. So let's go through them one by one. The first one is, I don't know how. Now, when I first started out, that was a lot more of a legitimate answer. Because if we wanted to learn how to do something 25 years ago, we had to either find somebody that knew about it, Or we had to go to the library and hope they had a book about it and read it. It was a lot harder to do research. But now, if you go on the internet and you Google in how to blank, 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 you're going to get hundreds of thousands of results, if not more, on everything that you can imagine. So if you can't find information on how to do something, you either aren't looking or you're asking about something that's very weird and people should be very leery of it. So when people say, I don't know how to, I don't think it's a matter of I don't have the information or I don't have the knowledge. And here's why I say that. Because as entrepreneurs, what did we have to get us ready to be an entrepreneur before we became an entrepreneur? Well, we went to school, and then most of us went to work for somebody else. In both of those situations, they're, in essence, a completed organization, and it's a closed community. And somebody's telling you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And as long as you do that, everything works out great. When you go into the entrepreneurial world, it's not a completed structure, because most entrepreneurs don't have enough money to put everything in place, so we have to wear all these hats. And we're doing so many things that it's not a controlled environment. So we don't have anything to get us ready for it. Most of us didn't go to entrepreneurial school. And most of us weren't encouraged to become leaders and think for ourselves. Most of us, because of our schooling and where we went to work, were trained to be followers. Follow what you're supposed to do. So we go into the entrepreneurial world, and all of a sudden, we've got to make all these decisions. Right? So if we're deciding we're going to jump off the cliff, and we jump off, and let's say we have had some instruction on how to use a bat suit. And we've learned about updrafts and downdrafts. But we jump off, and yes, we hit a downdraft and an updraft, but all of a sudden, an eagle comes flying by us and knocks us off track. And we go flying to the cliff, and a snake just jumps out at us. And then, because we look so weird, the Air Force thinks we're an unidentified flying object, and they send all these jets after us, and they start shooting at us. Well, we weren't prepared for all that stuff. Even though we may have had instructions on how to fly in a bat suit. And it's the same thing being an entrepreneur, right? Yep. Because what we learned in school and what we learned working for other people was learn one linear process after another. Right? We go to math class. We start with chapter 1. We go to chapter 2, chapter 3. How many of you during the day, if you're doing something and the phone rings, you either say, I can't answer that because I'm in the middle of doing this linear process and I've got to finish this first before I do something else. Or if you answer it, say the same thing. Sorry, I can't talk to you right now, finishing this linear process. And then I've got another one, and then I'll be able to get to you. We have all these things happening to us, and we're not prepared for that. That's not something that we have been encouraged to do. So when we go into business, most of us go in as a technician. We know how to do some kind of product or service. Is a technician going to lead us to our big goals? No, they're going to do the work. So we've got to make a transition from a technician, maybe to a manager, to get the business to a size that it will be running without us being in the middle of it. And then we've eventually got to become a leader. That's a big, big transition. And how many of you do anything about improving your skills and becoming a leader? We're so busy doing stuff that we're trying to get everything done and we're trying to get caught up. So it's a big transition. So when people say, I don't know how to, are they really saying I don't have the information or I don't have the experience? I really don't have the experience. I don't think I have the confidence to make the decisions that I need to make quickly on the spot right now. And I don't have the confidence and the experience to not only make the decision about right now, but I need to connect it to where I want to go. Can I keep the present, the near future, and my ultimate vision in mind when I'm making a decision? If you can't, and you just make it on the current, that decision may be right for right now, but it may not get you forward towards your big goals. So all of that stuff needs to be something that we all develop. Now, when I started in business, everything didn't move as fast as it does now, which was great, because it gave me a lot of time to learn how to do all this stuff. It took me a lot of years. Now, we don't have years. Sometimes we don't even have months. So that's the first objection, is I don't know how to. The second one is I don't believe I can. So I've been trained how to use this bat suit. But I've not experienced all those things. And I just know that something's going to come up that I'm not ready for. And it's going to hit me and I'm going to splat. I just don't feel confident that I can do it. So think about the term, I don't believe I can. What is that all about? I think about the 1980 U.S. Hockey Olympic team. They had to play against the Soviet Union. And at the time, the Soviet Union was really a professional hockey team. Everybody was supposed to be an amateur at that time, but they were really a professional hockey team. All they did, all year, every day, was play hockey. And everybody knew they were the best. In the USA, we had a bunch of college kids. Okay? On paper, and everybody knew, Russia, or the USSR at that time, was supposed to cream them. Well, the USA won. And it was such a win that when they made a movie about it with Kurt Russell, the title was Miracle. Because it was a miracle to everybody that they won. And then they went on to win the gold medal that year. Did they believe that they could win? Well, they weren't stupid. I mean, they were college kids, granted, and they were young and invincible and all that stuff, but they weren't stupid people. They knew that the Soviet Union was this powerhouse. So some of them might have thought that they could, but I'm sure most of them had doubts. So why were they able to win? So I think about Winston Churchill. Being from England, he's one of my heroes. I'm also taller than he ever was. And right now I'm narrower. And I don't drink as much. But I used to smoke cigars. Anyway, I think about when he became the Prime Minister of England during World War II. Okay, at that time, Germany was bombing England on a daily basis. In fact, my mother, who was a school child at that time, came home one day. Her mother was sitting on the steps of the house, and the house was gone because it had been bombed that day. It was going on all the time. So Winston Churchill had been in the military, and he had been in the Boer War. He had been captured and became a POW, and he escaped, and he was a war hero. He also went to military school before he went in the military, and he excelled in military strategy. So when he was given the prime ministership, and Germany was bombing England, he wasn't naive about what he was getting into. He knew exactly what he was getting into. England, at the time, really didn't have an army, a navy, or an air force, because World War I was the war that was going to end all wars. So they pretty much dismantled everything. But across the English Channel was the biggest military ever put on the planet. And they wanted to destroy England. So, being a military strategist, he could look, here's us, here's them, we're screwed. Right? We're screwed. There's no way in hell we can win. They're going to beat us 5,000 times over in every battle. So, he used the only weapon he had. And he delivered it through the radio. Now, he didn't say on the radio, hey, people of England, I've looked at this, and we're screwed. Better get in your boats and go. The island is lost. What did he do? Because he had to keep their morale up for almost 3 years before the United States and the other allies came into the war. He appealed to one thing, and that was their emotions. Their emotion about how they felt about being English and how they felt about England and Western civilization. And he got them all rallied up together that we have to stand against this tyrant because he's going to try and destroy everything that we hold dear. It was the emotion of the people. It was connecting to them emotionally that got them through World War II. And it's the same thing that probably happened with the 1980 Olympic team. Emotionally, they wanted to win. They wanted to win so bad that they went out and did things that were probably even surprises to them. Because they wanted it that bad. So, if the goal that you're going after isn't something that you want that bad, forget about it. Stop trying to go after it. You're just going to waste your time. It's got to be something that you want to do above all else. Because if it's not, you're not going to give it all. Because everybody that we have ever encountered or been told about, that we admire, has given their all to do it. So what I usually ask my clients is, on a 1 to 10, 10 being this is so important to me, it's super important, it's the most important thing, where is it? And most of the time I hear, oh, it's a 7.5. Or maybe an 8. Forget it. It's not going to happen at a 7.5 or an 8. It really needs to be a 50 or 100 on a scale of 1 to 10. Those are the people that go after big goals and get them. Now, what does that mean? That means you've got to know exactly what you want. That means you've got to know exactly what makes you passionate. You've got to know what is really important to you. If you're just doing it because you're going, well, I got to get a little bit more money, I got to increase my sales by 10%. If that's where you're at, just go back to the SMART goals and stay there, okay? Because that's where you're at. This is something like just jumping off a cliff and hoping you fly. Because you're going to have to take risks. You can't get so ready that you know it's going to work. Because if you get ready for it so that you know it's going to work, it's going to be too late. When I first started working with entrepreneurs, I really worked with true entrepreneurs. And the glass was half full, there was no risk, and they would take off. And they would leave carnage behind them, right? Because they were just interested in getting there. They didn't care about, well, I don't care about managing it or doing it, all of this stuff I need to do. So I had to kind of slow them down. But about 12 or so years ago, these other so-called entrepreneurs came in. And to them, the glass was half empty. And they weren't going to take a step towards their goals unless they had that signed letter from God saying it was all going to work out. And they would get ready, 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 and they would never pull the trigger. It's never going to be perfect. Nothing in business is perfect. And now, more than ever, you've got to start before you've got everything in place. Because things change so fast that if you sit down and you say, I'm going to put this thing together and it's going to be perfect and I'm going to have this plan and I'm going to have this big business plan and all this other stuff. A month later, everything could change. I experienced that this summer. I'm putting together, and I'll talk about it later, these groups. And I've got some group leaders. And they wanted these binders and everything telling them all about these groups, which is not what I like to do. It's not fun for me to put binders together and write all this stuff down. And I said, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to move forward. And in 3 months, now, it is at least 100% different than what it was when we started 3 months ago. So if I'd have spent all that time on those binders, boom, trash.
Right.
Okay? So you've got to really know what it is you want. And that has to be connected to your passion, has to be connected to your vision, and it has to be connected to your purpose on the planet. Now, I'm going to give you all a hint if you don't know what your purpose is. All of our purposes are to help each other. But we all do it in different ways. So you just have to find out what way works for you. But when you have that dot, all those dots connected, then when you hit a roadblock, keep looking forward, and it'll pull you forward. Otherwise, you'll get stopped. And that's what happened with a lot of people that said, I don't believe I can. Because there wasn't that connection. They didn't really know. They were just, putting something together because everybody else does it. So, the last one is, I don't want to do it. I've decided I don't want to fly off the Grand Canyon. I really want to climb Kilimanjaro. I mean, I've heard that so many times. Well, there's a couple of things in that. Is it that they really don't want to do it anymore? It could be. It could be that they were really doing somebody else's dream. I mean, how many families do you know? Think about circus families. How many of those go on for generations and generations? How many of those, they're going, I really don't want to be doing this circus crap. But everybody in my family is doing it and has done it for generations. Or people that have generations of lawyers. Susan and I used to have an office with a bunch of lawyers, and one of them, he had these pictures on his wall of all these people. They were all his father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather, his great-great, all of them lawyers. So is it somebody else's dream? It could be somebody else's dream. And then when you finally go, I really don't have to do this. That's not my dream at all. I mean, I've had people go from one end of the spectrum to the other. I myself got out of college as a CPA. That stands for constant pain in the ass. And now I'm a business coach and mentor. They're opposite ends of the spectrum. Now they do work together in harmony because I know a lot about business. But I've seen people go from one extreme to another because it wasn't their dream. But it could be that somebody talked you out of your dream. Because what's the worst thing that can happen to us in this society? The worst thing that can happen is that we get voted off the island. Think about it. From a very early age, we try to fit in. We try to fit in some kind of group. Social media, it's all about groups. I remember several years ago, I was driving down East Colfax, and there's this place that has concerts. And something caught my eye, and it was these colors. And I looked, and there were all these people standing in line to go in, and they had these unusual colors and these unusual outfits. And they were pretty, rebellious outfits. But the closer I looked, they all looked the same. So even though they were rebelling in a group. We need to fit in. So, first of all, when you become an entrepreneur, you're not fitting in. Right? Because we're not supposed to do this. And when you go after big goals, you're not trying to do something in the box. You're doing something outside the box. And what are people going to say to you? What are you doing? What? Just don't quit your day job. Fly right. Grow up. This is crazy. So you're not going to get any support. And the more you try to do it, the more aggressive people become trying to talk you out of it. Let me tell you something. The more aggressive they become, chances are you're on the right track. Because that's the people that have become successful. So it's really all about you. It's all about you. It's not about everybody else. It's not about the infamous they. They tell us what we're supposed to do. I think they're in Aspen this week. It's about you. It's about what you want. It's about what's important to you. It's about going after something without the limitations that society has put on us, our families put on us, our friends, our associates, everybody else. It's about you. That's how you're going to be able to fly off the cliff and not make a splat. All of what you need is inside of you. It's not outside of you. Stop looking for it outside of you. Everybody talks about, have you read this book? Have you read that book? I've heard that for 30 years. Every month, there's a new dynamic book. If there's such a great book, why do we not only have one book? We have millions. If there's one way, why do we not all go to the same seminar or workshop? But we continue to do what they tell us. Because we're supposed to conform. We're supposed to do what we're told. That's not how you're going to reach your big goals. And that's not how you're going to be a successful entrepreneur. So, are you ready to go now?
Where's the
Let's go.
Where's the
Thank you.